Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I know it's been a little while since we've been posting. We decided to take a temporary break over exams and trying to figure out what we were all doing over the summer, but we're all happy to be back. And in today's video, I'm going to show all of you how to go and make the world's easiest pecan pie recipe. This is one of the first recipes that got me into baking because of how simple it is, and this is a recipe found on allrecipes.com submitted by their user Corwin Darkhole. So with that being said, let's jump into it. So as always, the link to the recipe will be down in the description below. But for this recipe, you are going to go and need 3/4 cup sugar. The recipe calls for white sugar, but I'm using brown sugar because I think that the color and the texture will better suit a caramel pecan pie than white sugar. You're going to need 36 individually wrapped caramels. And I just went and picked up these caramels from the dollar store in a pack, and I just unwrapped them. So you'll need 36 of them total. You'll need 1 cup of pecans. You'll need 1 frozen pie crust. I got the deep dish, and this came in a pack of 2, and I think I paid around $3-4, and I found this in the frozen section of my grocery store. You'll need 1/4 cup of milk. I'm using 2%. You'll need 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, a splash of vanilla extract, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Step 1 of this recipe is to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's go and get that preheated. So the next step will be to add the milk, butter, and caramels into a saucepan over low to medium heat. And the reason why you want to use low to medium heat is because you want to melt the caramels gradually, because if you go and turn the heat up higher, you'll end up burning the caramels that are touching the bottom of the pan. So it's better to kind of take things low and slow, and this process is going to take 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so the caramel is melted now. So we're going to go and take this off the heat and let it cool down just a little bit. And while it cools down, it is going to thicken a little bit. But if we go and add this into the next steps, which involve the eggs right now, it will go and cook the eggs prematurely. So we're just going to go and take this off the heat and let it cool down while we go and do the next steps. So the next step is to add the 3 eggs, the sugar, the vanilla extract, and the salt together in a bowl and just give it a whisk. So because we're using brown sugar instead of white sugar, we're going to need to go and give it an extra good whisk because brown sugar tends to clump just a little bit more. Okay, so now that this is all mixed up and the brown sugar clumps are gone, we're going to move on to the next step, which is to gradually add the caramel mixture into the bowl with the eggs and the brown sugar. So, like always, whenever I am adding hot ingredients into eggs, I like to do things extra slow because it is a better way of ensuring that you don't cook the eggs and nothing curdles. So I like to take things very, very slow. So while I just slowly pour in the caramel, I'm just going to be giving this a mix. And now we are just going to stir in the pecans, and then we should be good to go and put this in the oven. Okay, so last but not least, we are just going to go and pour the pecan mixture into the pie crust. I put the pie crust on a baking sheet. I've never had anything bubble over when I made this before, but just in case, I always like to put the pie crust in a baking sheet just in case something bubbles over. So we're just going to add the caramel pecan mixture into the pie crust, and then we'll just pop this in the oven. Okay, the pie is now out of the oven. It has been 45 minutes, and I know it looks a little bit puffy right now, but as it cools down, it's going to kind of sink a little bit, so it doesn't look that like it's coming out of the pie. But now we just need to go and let it cool for, I would say, 2.5 hours before you try to cut it, because the center of the pie is very liquidy because it was very hot in the oven. So we have to go and wait before we're able to cut it. So we'll be back in about 2.5 hours to go and give this a nice slice. Hi everyone, so the pie has cooled for the 2.5 hours that it needed to so that it could set and be solid before I ended up cutting it. So I have gone ahead and cut myself a tiny slice of the pie, so I want to save those for the people around me because I'm going to try giving it to some friends because sharing is caring. But I'm going to give this a try and let's see how it tastes. It's really good. You can taste the pecan, the caramel. It's not overly sweet, but it has a nice amount of sweetness that comes with a good pecan pie. So with that being said, I'd like to go and transition into the next part of the video. It's that time of the video where I'd like to talk about a social initiative. The entire Reach 5 team is passionate about equality and diversity. And with Pride Month coming around in another couple of days, I wanted to take the time to explain a little bit about what Pride is about. So the month of June is known as Pride Month, and it marks the anniversary of the Stonewall riots in New York that acted as a catalyst for many future LGBTQ+ movements. Pride celebrates equality and diversity, but also reflects upon those in the LGBTQ+ community who have lost their life to HIV, suicide, and abuse. It's important during the month of June to recognize that basic human rights are still not available to many in the LGBTQ+ community around the world because some countries bar anything that strays from social normalities with punishments ranging all the way up to death. Pride centers around the LGBTQ+ community, but it can be celebrated by straight, cisgendered people as well. Cisgendered meaning people that identify with the sex that was assigned to the member. But it is important during the month of June to recognize that Pride isn't really about dancing, music, and rainbows, but is really rooted in systemic discrimination that continues to this day. For example, blood donation bans that exist that prevent men who have sex with men from donating blood, even if they're in long-term monogamous relationships and with today's technology continue to test negative for HIV. Before going on to how you can support the LGBTQ+ community, I want to provide some statistics about the LGBTQ+ community that I found impactful. Over 1 in 3 members of the LGBTQ+ community face harassment and threats. LGBTQ+ members have an increased risk for anxiety, depression, OCD, and eating disorders. And LGBTQ youth face a 14 times greater risk of suicide and substance abuse compared to non-LGBTQ member peers. And 77% of trans youth have considered suicide, with 45% having attempted suicide. You can get involved by having conversations and educating family, friends, and oneself, donating to organizations like the Trevor Project or the 519, and supporting LGBTQ+ content creators and vendors. Before you go out and buy everything Pride related, do be aware that some major corporations and companies like to capitalize off Pride and social progress, so it's important to research if these major companies are actually donating their proceeds towards LGBTQ+ initiatives or just trying to go and market off of them. Or you can also see if there are local content creators that you can support that are a part of the LGBTQ+ community. I've linked some resources down below as always, but with that being said, I will end off this video and I hope you enjoy it.